Well, it's time for our weekly look now at the big stories and the big issues in crime. And to guide us through it all is Jackie Hames, who of course served with the Metropolitan Police for 30 years. A Sky News investigation this week found that police are being called to NHS premises once every 10 minutes to deal with crimes often committed by people who are drunk. And at this time of year, both hospitals and the police are stretched to the limit. So how practical would it be to take a tougher stance on alcohol-related violence? First question to you, Jackie.
Well, obviously this time of year it really highlights this issue, but it is an all-round year problem, and it is behind a lot of causes of crime in general and is a big issue for policing. I want to introduce ex-Chief Constable of the British Transport Police, but also this is Andy Trotter, and you were also in charge of West End policing for many years, which has a huge concentration of licensed premises. There was a call this week by the head of the Institute of Emergency Medicine for police to take a much stronger stand against alcohol-related crimes and to drunks in general. What's your view of that?
I thought it was a really good point he made, and I think we should listen to him. He's at the sharp end of dealing with people in A&E, and he gets evidence from his people across the country. There is a real problem, and we've known about this problem for years, and I think it's a timely intervention by him, and I think we should listen to what he's got to say.
Well, clearly there is a big problem with A&E departments, not just dealing with people who are ill through drink, but also the hangers-on, the people who go with them and turn up, causing disruption, sometimes waiting for hours for their friends to be released. What can be done about that?
If you take someone into A&E, as a parent, if your child is ill on a Friday or a Saturday night, not only are you frightened about your child, but you know you're going to go into a place often full of obnoxious people, unfortunately, drunk people who are maybe patients or, as you say, hangers-on, and you want this to be safe and secure. This should be a place of safety at A&E, not somewhere where you feel threatened or the staff feel threatened. So there's obviously a role for the police here. There's a role for the hospitals as well, but there's a much broader role because of the behaviour of some people who drink a lot of alcohol. I mean, many people drink alcohol and cause no problems whatsoever. But there's a lot of people we know from every night of the week, but particularly weekends, particularly around Christmas and New Year, will have a lot of drink inside them and will cause violence. And this has been a problem for years and years. And I think this is a timely point being made by Dr. Mann. We should listen to him, and the police service should react to that. Not just the police service, but police and crime commissioners have got a role here too. You know, they're the ones in charge of setting the strategies for local forces. They're the ones in touch with their communities. They are the ones who should be determining what's going to happen. Because we can't walk away from this, and we can't just claim shortage of resources. That won't do. The public expect the police to be there to protect them, and that's the job of the police service.
Back in 2003, you launched quite a big opposition to the changes in the licensing laws. Do you think that's still an issue that can be to actually help address this problem?
Well, I think so. There's a role for government here too, to set the overall strategy. But, you know, I did oppose the 2003 Licensing Act. I think the problems that have been caused by that through opening hours throughout the night were utterly predictable, and that's what's happened across the country. We've seen towns and cities turned into youth ghettos where adults don't go in the evening. We've allowed the domination of bars that provide huge amounts of alcohol to young people who then go out and cause problems. That's not to say that pubs and bars haven't improved. Of course they have. They've improved hugely over the years. But the problem is then out on the street, the public sector picks that problem up, be that the police, the ambulance service or the A&E.
A complete rethink when we look at this. We've seen over the festive period this drunk tank in Bristol being launched, which is this articulated lorry having, I think, a £500,000 overhaul to turn it into kind of like a holding pen for drunks, and it stopped something like 15 hospital admissions over one weekend. We know that medical professionals want to focus on people who are really sick, not people who are drunk. We know that the police want to focus on people who are committing crimes. So maybe it's not about whether or not the police are approaching this properly. Maybe it needs to be approached from a totally different perspective.
Those are very interesting experiments, but my point around those drunk tanks is, are they an extension of A&E? So you've got someone who's a patient that's been put in there. Are they extension of police custody? Because if they're in custody, they need care. They need proper medical care. Because people who are incapacitated through alcohol, they have a tendency to be ill, to die in custody through injuries they've had beforehand or things such as that. So we've got to take care of these people, but equally we don't want to be taking drunk people into A&E. You know, because that's not the place for them either. So I think something around the drunk tanks might be worth a further look at. There's been some good work in Bristol and other city centres, and I think it's something we should examine further.
Is there an option for some sort of triage service, like they're trying to introduce with regard to mental health issues in police stations, where somebody who's perhaps specially trained can make an assessment medically or criminally as to how that person should be dealt with?
Yes, I think custody officers are well trained to look at the problems, to call in doctors, or some places have nurses there full time now. But there's a capacity issue as well. Back in the West End, we did have a zero tolerance campaign some years ago, arresting lots of people, aggressive beggars, drug dealers, and drunk people. We filled the cells up so quickly. We ran out the police officers very early in the evening. I mean, it was a very effective campaign, but there must be something beyond that. I do agree we should be robust in dealing with people who are causing disorder. We should arrest people that need arresting. There's got to be a much bigger approach to this, which is beyond just arresting. Yeah. It's got to be combined with education. It's got to be combined with change in legislation and support from the licensing industry.
Thank you very much, Andy. Obviously a big issue that's going to continue on as well, isn't it?
And of course they've got to do it all with smaller budgets and fewer police officers. Thank you very much.